Hello there, my name's Jason Boswell, and welcome to the Core Data Discovery and Risk Insights Technical Awareness webinar, and this is for version 25.1. For those who are unaware, Core Data Discovery and Risk Insights is the new name for Voltage Fusion. So, okay, let's get started and let's talk about the details. Okay, we always start with the schedule. Core Data Discovery and Risk Insights, version 25.1. So, of course, this is the first quarter release of calendar year 2025. It was released from engineering pretty much on time on January the 24th, and the demo system has now been updated. So, everything that I'm talking about today, you will be able to see on the demonstration tenants. So, going on from now, this will then be deployed on all the production instances. So we've got Proto 2, which is the Sydney instance. Then we've got Proto 1, which is based in Europe. And we've got Proto 3, which is based in the States. So these SaaS instances will be deployed through the month of February. So keep an eye out. These are provisional dates, so keep an eye out for the official notifications when your system is updated. Okay, so I'm going to give you an overview of the highlights of this release. So if you've got any questions on this, I'll be publishing this recording internally at OpenText on the Teams channel and externally for customers and partners on the community forum. So if you've got any questions about this release, the best thing you can do is put a note on those, either the channel or the forum, and I'll get back to you with answers as soon as I can. The first point to make about this 25.1 release is this is the first release which will be only available to our SaaS customers. Because if you remember from the 24.4 technical awareness webinar, we said that the 24.4 release is a LTS, long-term support version. Okay, so we'll still be patching, so security patches and defect patches will be occurring of the 24.4 release, but all new enhancements will go into this schedule. Okay, to 25.1, and this is only available to SaaS customers. Okay, so just to cover the highlights of this release, the first one is the enhanced grammar search. This is a way to reduce the number of false positives by using the confidence level in a more definitive way. So in previous releases, you weren't able to adjust this, but I'll show you how we can adjust the confidence level to reduce those false positives. We've got further external metadata support. Previously, it was just file system. Now we support SharePoint and Google. We have extra metadata coming on by default for Office documents, something that's been requested a few times, such as owner. We've got a number of data processing enhancements, I'll cover those, and a number of data management enhancements. Particular one that I think you'll be interested in is the ability to pass existing folder hierarchy from the source into target locations. Okay, so let's discuss all these in more detail now. So the first one, the grammar search by confidence. So now you can set a desired minimum confidence score when you're selecting the grammar rule when you're doing any type of searches. So you can see on the right hand side, this is any type of financial data. So I've got all the number of, these are all, as you can see, credit cards. But in this case, the default score that a grammar would hit is 50%. But if I want to reduce any of the false positives, I could increase this minimum threshold to 80% or even higher. So, and this is adjustable for your tags, it's adjustable for doing any general searches, and it's also adjustable if you just want to do this on a more of a, to take actions on the data. You can use this in query and dynamic query robots inside Manage. So yeah, as I said, the presumed default is 50%. However, adjust this as necessary to as you wish to reduce the number of false positives. Now, the one important thing to explain in this feature is that as we extract the grammars, as we analyze these grammars, to use this feature, you need to have the feature on your data set to extract grammar values. So this is a data set option. This is because each value that we get back from an grammar extraction could have a different confidence rating. So, and if we go into search across them for different confidence ratings, we need to know each of those values. So we need to extract those grammar values if you want to adjust this threshold score. Okay. Let's move on now to further external metadata support. Now, the external metadata is the ability to capture extra metadata that we don't do by default from the source, and you can choose as using a PowerShell script to get whatever metadata you like from the source. So here's an example of getting the access controls, which is something that we don't do by default. Now, in previous versions in 24.4, we only supported this on file system. Now we support this on SharePoint, SharePoint Online, and Google-based datasets. And now you can configure that as a primary in the primary capture rules for these source types, dataset types. If you want to see an example of how to capture that, either from a file or dynamically on ingestion, if you go and look at the external metadata PS1 file, which is in the new agent, so the 25.1 agent, and inside the app, inside where that is installed, you'll see a scripts folder, and inside the scripts folder you'll see this file, and inside this file you can see examples of how to capture information from SharePoint and Google Drive. We've also made this information here exportable. So when you're exporting through CSV, either in Analyze or Manage, you can export this data as well. And because it's exportable, you can use those in field templates. Okay. Something else that was requested from a number of different customers is the ability to capture more metadata by default. The previous thing I just explained about capturing external metadata is to go beyond the defaults, but here we've added more to the default set. So here we've got, here's an example of a Word document. So we can take the subject title out of the Office document and put it in here. So we're taking this metadata field here and placing it over here. Also the author, which is a lot of customers are interested in the author to try and work out who owns a document, therefore who's responsible for the document, or perhaps to take action on the document. So either the author, as you can see here, which is in the Office properties, or in the file properties such as the owner, we capture both of those pieces of information here. Also the last modified date and the last access date. As you can see on the right hand side, we've got some description of these fields. I want to call out specifically, like, not all of them are supported on all types. You can see some of them are only supported on file system and SharePoint types, particularly the owner and the last access date. The last access date is one to there's a few more notes on this one because we capture the last access date, which basically when you read a document, that date is then updated. So when you read it in the source system. And so at the time that we do a scan, we will capture that last access date. Then when you do an incremental scan, we look for documents that have been modified, created, and deleted. That's the query that we use so you don't have to rescan every single document again. If the document has been accessed, i.e. read, but not modified in any way since that initial scan, then we won't get that updated date across. So this date, that we store here is the last access date at the point of scan or at the point of last updated scan. Excuse me. But these are useful information that you can use in your analysis. Okay, so let's look on some more data processing enhancements. It's important that there is a new agent delivered as part of the 25.1 release, and you are required to download this agent and install it wherever your agents are deployed. This is so that you get all the new features of the software, and one of those new features is the ability to support a much later version of Idle Media Server 24.4. This new Media Server version has got a number of enhancements that improve the quality of OCR. And actually, under the covers, it uses a different method to integrate. So now it's really important that you upgrade Media Server to this version, and because older versions of Media Server will need to be upgraded and they are not supported. We've updated the path to the common data store, which is basically a path where we store the settings on the agent machine. So nothing to worry about that, but it's just so that you know. We've got some additional capture rules for XCCM sources. Now we can filter by extension, you can filter by modify date. So there's a lot more options to query when you are defining the data set for an XCCM source. There is one feature that which we're still working on and will hopefully be in the next release, which is the ability to select a particular node or particular data set within inside XCCM. So you don't have to have a single data set for the whole of XCCM. That's coming along. It'll be coming along in a future release. But we're working on that and we'll get back to you. We've been able to the managed dataset list is now auto-refreshed, so to keep it up to date. And there's a new drop-down in Connect for the root document selection. So this used to be a gear icon and now it's a drop-down, much easier to use. In the previous version, we didn't track deleted documents. So when a document is deleted from Documentum and you run an incremental scan, it wasn't removed from the index. So what we need to do was there's a feature inside Documentum that keeps a track of deleted documents for 90 days. And then inside the new 25.1 agent, it will understand that. So when you do an incremental scan, it'll recognize that these documents have been deleted from Documentum and therefore clean them out of the index. But this deletion tracking in Documentum doesn't exist forever. It's refreshed every 90 days. So this makes sense that you must make sure your data sets must also, so these are your CDDRI data sets, they must be refreshed in line with that cadence. So just put your data sets on a schedule to be updated inside that time frame. This is a nice feature, the ability to perform file analysis on unstructured data items from the research content list. Previously, if you had a number of documents that you wanted to perhaps extract the grammar values so that you can see the competence scores and use the competence scores for querying, you had to create a workspace, you had to add the documents to a workspace, then hit extract grammar values. Now you can do that directly from Analyze. You click on the Manage drop down here and there's two extra menus, and this will pull up this dialog and you can select whatever appropriate analysis option you need directly from here without creating a workspace at all. So this just improves the processing and improves the usability. When adding new items to a workspace, also to take from Analyze when we into a Manage action, this now opens in a new browser tab instead of the existing tab. So I think it helps when you're just clicking in between them. This is a feature that was being requested a number of times, and we had to do this feature so that we could retire the export feature, which I'll talk about in 1 second. So When you do center target or send mast, there's a new option, and you can see the options down the right hand side here. Now, in the previous version, we'd just take the file name and put that in the path that you decide in the target location. Now, what you can also do is use the folder hierarchy of the source, because usually the folder hierarchy is sometimes got useful classification information, and you want to transfer that classification information into the source. So when we transfer in a path, so here's an example, this one here, we transfer this path with 4 levels deep. You can see that it's transferred some of the folders here across from the source to the target location. So we go up to a maximum of 10 folders deep, and this will work for pretty much all source types that have nearly all sorts have a folder dynamic foldering. So you can do folders to any type of depth. However, the Content Manager doesn't contain a dynamic folder in there. They're defined by the record types. So this feature is not supported with Content Manager as a target. There's been a number of enhancements in the Manage section. There's a new enhanced deduplication option. In the previous version, we had 2 options for hashes. There was a binary hash and an essential hash. So if you were doing a comparison across file system and SharePoint and looking for duplicates, you had to do effectively 2 workbooks, which was an extra overhead for people. So now what if you can use enhanced data, what it will do is it basically pick the best hash detection method for you. We've added the ability to select columns to display and resize in the Manage Workbook list. So we've been moving onto a new UI framework, which allows us to resize columns, add data to columns, so you've got much more flexibility in how data is displayed. We will apply that across the whole of the product over the coming releases, but you'll be able to see it in this release in the Manage Workbook list. We add the option to jump to recent workspaces. This is this screenshot at the top here. I find this really handy, so that quite often you're working on a workspace, you go somewhere else and you want to come back to that workspace. This workspace will be at the top of your list, so it's easy. You can hit the drop down here, go straight to the workspace that you've been working on. There's a new Manage Application position for changing the status of workspaces, particularly close and reopen workspaces. We've added a deleted items count to the following locations, and particularly we've added deleting item file size. So when you've deleted a number of items inside a workbook, you'll see that there's 3 items been deleted here, and the size of the items that are deleted. So if you're doing a data cleanup, data minimization task, you can see the value of the cleanup that you've done in this particular workspace and workbook. This also is on the workbook details, the workspace overview, and it's in the workspace report. We're actually moving towards the ability to have this as a bar as well, so that you can click on it as well. And then you'll be able to see the details and the path of all the items that were deleted. So it gives you a full audit trail, really, of the delete actions that you took. You can actually access those. We're actually storing the details. Basically, we store like inside the index, there's a small amount of data that's kept, which is just the file name when something is deleted, so that then we can audit based on that. That is now kept in the index, and you can access that audit of the paths through the API today, and in the future release you'll be able to access through the interface as well. We've removed the option to export items. This was when we were export items to an FTP location inside the CDDRI service. But no customers were really using that. And really, because customers, if they wanted to export data to another location, they'd use the send items, send to feature, or the send mass feature. So we kept this feature available while we didn't have support for the foldering. So now as you can send the source folders to the target locations. We're going to fully retire this option. For new tenants of this release, the default trivial data and obsolete data workspace templates, we normally taken off the restriction so that you can, now it will include more types rather than just file system, SharePoint, and Google Drive sources. If you've got an existing tenant, you can purely just modify your own workbook templates. And now you can, the final one here, you can now change the workspace state from the workspace list pane. So if you want to change a number of different states of workspaces, so you can make them draft to open, open to closed, you can do that direct without opening each of the workspaces. As with any update of the product, we update the API. Oh, it should say API. It says APU there. Let's just quickly modify that. There we go. So we've done a number of different API updates inside the product. So every time we add a new feature, or add a method or add a properties, you'll see that reflected in the API. But there's one that I just wanted to call out, and this is called out in the release notes. This will help you if doing custom actions based on duplicate detection. So when you're doing the duplicate detection, doing the rot analysis. So there's some more methods and properties that are particularly useful. So this information's in the release notes. So if you find this useful, just check the release notes to see if there's any of the details within there. Finally, there are a number of defect fixes. It's actually too many for me to put on the slide here. So go to the release notes. The release notes will be when the production systems are updated. This will be on this documentation site. That will contain the release notes. Also, if it's not, I will also put the release notes where on the same location as I'm publishing this video. So you'll be able to, so that's on the channel and the community forum. So if it's important to check if you've registered a support ticket and you want to check whether that defect has been fixed, you'll see that within inside here. Okay, so that takes us to the end. We will now heavily into working on 25.2, and I guess in 3 months' time I'll be giving you another little video on that release. So thanks very much for your time, and see you next time.